Today, I have a story for you guys about this crazy emo kid who ends up starting a fire at school that leads to him being expelled. This is one of the best stories that anyone has submitted to my Instagram yet, which, by the way, if you have any stories you want to tell, submit them to my Instagram at KeidBoi, and I may just cover your story. Before we dive in, drop a like for 69 years of good luck, and help me hit 10 subscribers or followers by subscribing or following. With that all being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. And remember, as always, the names are completely made up. This all takes place in school. So when our subscriber first met the emo kid known as Danny, they thought that he was a bit of a weirdo. He always dressed in black, had jet black hair that covered half of his face, and wore more eyeliner than anyone our subscriber had ever seen before. But as they got to know him better, they realized that perhaps he actually could be a pretty cool guy. He was into all kinds of punk and metal bands, and he had a real talent for drawing. One day, during lunch period, Danny came up to our subscriber with this mischievous grin on his face. "Hey man," he said, "you want to see something crazy?" The subscriber replied by saying, I don't know, what do you have in mind?" Danny, the emo kid, says, "Follow me," and grabs our subscriber's arm and pulls him towards the exit. As they walk through the hallway, Danny started to pull out a bunch of paper and markers from his backpack. The subscriber still had no idea what he was planning, but was very intrigued by this. When they finally made it outside, Danny started to set up his makeshift art station on the sidewalk. He laid out a bunch of paper and markers and started to draw stuff. The subscriber couldn't really make out what it was supposed to be, but it looked like some sort of monster. As Danny kept drawing, a small crowd started to gather around Danny and the subscriber. Some of them were curious, while others were outright skeptical. "What the hell is this kid doing?" our subscriber heard one person say. But Danny just kept drawing. He didn't care, and he was just completely focused on his work. And then, as he put his finishing touches on his creation, he suddenly stood up and yelled, "It's alive!" Everyone around Danny and the subscriber jumped back in shock, including the subscriber themselves. They were pretty scared about what was going on, but then everyone started to laugh. It was such a ridiculous thing to say, but it was also, kind of funny. Danny started to act like his drawing was really alive, making it walk around and interact with people on the street. Some people would play along, while others just shook their heads and walked away, thinking that Danny was crazy. But then things took a turn for the even more insane. Danny suddenly grabbed a piece of paper and wrote something on it. He held it up for everyone to see, and it read, "Free hugs." Just imagine the person that our subscriber detailed at the start of the story. All black clothes, black hair, covering up their face, eyeliner, and they're holding up a sign that says "Free hugs." Drop a comment and let me know if you personally would go up and give this emo kid a hug. Anyways, at first, nobody really wanted to go near Danny, but then one brave soul finally stepped forward and actually gave Danny a hug. And then another person stepped up, and another. Soon enough, there was a huge line of people waiting to hug Danny and his monster that he drew. This is when a group of teachers and administrators from the school came over to see what all this commotion was about, what the crowd of people outside and a line of kids was for. At first, they looked completely baffled, but then they started to smile and even take pictures with Danny and his drawing. The next day, Danny was the talk of the school. He was the cool dude. Oh yeah, people couldn't stop talking about his crazy stunt, and some were even calling him a hero. But Danny wasn't content to rest on his laurels. He was already planning his next big project. A few days later, our subscriber received a mysterious text from Danny. It said, "Meet me outside the school at midnight. I have something to show you." Now, of course, our subscriber was very hesitant at first. I mean, meeting somebody at midnight at a school is kind of strange, but their curiosity got the best of them. So at midnight, they found themselves standing outside the school with Danny. The subscriber asks, "What's going on?" To which Danny replies with a big grin on his face, "You'll see." Suddenly, a car pulled up and a bunch of people got out. They were all wearing black and some had their faces covered with bandanas. The subscriber was starting to get scared and asked, "What the hell is going on here?" That's when Danny said, "We're gonna do something big, something that will change this school forever." And with that, he led the way. Our subscriber once again hesitated for a moment, wondering if they should actually follow them or run in the other direction and get the hell out of there. But then they remembered how much fun they had with Danny during their last adventure, and they decided to actually go along for the ride. They walked for what seemed like hours until eventually they reached an abandoned building on the outskirts of town. Danny and the others started to paint something on the side of the building, but I couldn't make out what it was supposed to be. As they worked, our subscribers started to feel uneasy. They had this feeling that whatever they were doing wasn't exactly legal. But before they could say anything, the group finished their work and stood back to admire it. And that's when our subscriber finally saw it. They had painted a giant mural of a demon on the side of the building. It was incredibly detailed with sharp teeth and glowing eyes that our subscriber says seemed to follow you wherever you went. The subscriber felt a chill run down their spine as they looked at this art. It was impressive, but also kind of terrifying. Danny and his friends seemed pleased with their work though. They high-fived each other and grinned at the subscriber. "What do you think?" Danny asked, to which the subscriber replied, "It's really cool," trying their best to sound enthusiastic. Then the group of kids heard sirens in the distance. Someone must have called the cops on them. Danny and his friends quickly packed up their supplies and started to run, but our subscriber, they froze in place. They didn't know what to do. "Come on, man," Danny yelled, grabbing our subscriber's arm and pulling him along. "We have to go." The subscriber stumbled along behind them, feeling like that they were in some sort of crazy dream. They all finally made it back to the school, where they hid behind a dumpster until the cops passed by. Our subscriber was shaking with adrenaline and fear, but Danny and his friends were laughing and high-fiving each other. "That was awesome," one of them exclaimed. But our subscriber knew that it was anything but awesome. They had broken the law, and they could have gotten in some serious trouble. Over the next few weeks, Danny and his friends continued to pull off crazy stunts around the school. They spray painted graffiti on the lockers, started food fights in the cafeteria, and even set off a bunch of smoke bombs in the gym. The subscribers started to distance themselves from Danny, not wanting to get caught up in his antics, but they just couldn't help to feel a little bit jealous of his carefree attitude. Danny didn't seem to care about the consequences of his action, and that was kind of liberating. But then something happened that changed everything. During one of their stunts, Danny and his friends accidentally set a fire in the science lab. It was a small fire, but it could have easily turned into something much worse. From the rumors that our subscriber had heard, Danny and his friends were experimenting with a bunch of different chemicals and just mixing random stuff together. And I guess some of the chemicals that they combined ended up reacting with each other, and it caused a flame. And then that flame grew and got worse, but luckily the science teacher was just on their way back to their classroom, and they had noticed the smoke coming from out of their door. And if you didn't know, most science labs have a way to put out fires, because obviously that is a big risk with having a science lab and working with chemicals and stuff like that. So of course they had a fire extinguisher nearby, and the teacher put it out. Luckily nobody was hurt, and the fire got to be put out before the flames were able to spread. But the school was in an uproar after this. The principal called an emergency assembly and scolded the students for their reckless behavior. Danny and his friends were expelled from the school, and the rest of everybody were left to deal with the aftermath of their actions. Our subscriber mentions that this was a big wake-up call for them. They realized that there was a fine line between having fun and being dangerous. As for Danny though, our subscriber has never seen them again after that. Rumor has it that he moved away with his family, but truly nobody knows where he went.